Well, in the words of Zoolander, I'm enjoying talking about this conversation. And we just finished recording episode 2. Everything is an investment. But Rosanna and I decided that we had some more questions for one another and some more that we just wanted to explore about this idea of looking at your life as an investment. So we're going to keep the camera rolling, and we hope you enjoy some of this bonus footage of the rest of what we wanted to talk about.
Hey, not bad. A little bonus in your investment, in yourself, in your relationships, and in the world around you. So let's dig in.
Okay, so you said you had a couple more questions for me.
I did. We have this little saying here. My husband, who buys really nothing decorative for the house once.
This might be the only thing.
We were in a Hobby Lobby probably like 10 years ago when he picked this up. This has been in the last couple houses we've owned. I don't know.
That?
Well, I'll read it to them. It's fine.
All right.
Time is the one thing that can never be retrieved. And so that's what we were talking about a lot about in the episode 2 of the podcast. And so I tripped over this question, and I thought I would ask it to you because I think you might have some insight into answering it. So the question is, do you agree? Is time more valuable than money? And if so, what does that mean in our individual pursuits towards these lives worth living?
Okay, well, let me answer your question with another question.
All right, here we go.
Would you rather I bought you a gift or spent time with you?
Oh, I'd rather spend time with you at this.
Oh, you had to think about it though.
Well, I will gladly accept a gift at any point.
Okay,
but...
so like how expensive would the gift need to be for me to say for you to say, yeah, I'd rather have that than go spend an hour with you?
I love this. I love you. This many dollars worth, Rosanna. I don't know. I think because we've been together a long time. I mean, we've bought each other things through the years, and some big things, some small things. When you buy me something big and nice, I'm always overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, that thing is just a thing, and it could be a thing that I really enjoy. But it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And spending this last year, more intentional time together weekly has been probably one of my favorite things about us and about the last year. So,
And I think, so really to answer your question, like I would say time for sure. And also the quality of that time that we spend together too matters. And in a lot of ways that translates to like other things that you'd be thinking about. Like you can throw money at anything, and I think money is nice. It can help you purchase items or experiences that can be very enjoyable and create some great memories. But that you're really not going to be enjoying any of that anyhow without the requisite time that it takes to put into it. So I think overall, like, time is more valuable. But to go off this quote too, I think the thing that really makes time valuable is that you can not produce more of it. You can use the time you have more efficiently or more intentionally, but there's plenty of ways to make money and plenty of ways to spend money, but time is the one thing that can never be retrieved.
So why do we spend so much time working? I mean, I understand that we need to eat and pay the mortgage and all of that, but like, why do we spend so much time working, or why are we so focused on getting to the next point in our career to make more money, to have those things? Mm-hmm. Like, if we both realize that time is more valuable than money, right? Like, why does money kind of dictate a lot?
I think that may for some people. I think the biggest thing that people would say in response to that, though, is that you also have to enjoy and find value beyond money in what you do for a living. So, I mean, I know that we would both say that's the case for us, where, you certainly need to do something that pays the bills, but if you are going to be investing more time and be developing your skills and your knowledge and whatever that field may be, it should probably be something that you enjoy and see some intrinsic value in.
Do you think that's the case for a lot of people?
I don't know. It's up to them to answer. So you guys should be thinking about that. Is that the case for you? Are you investing in your career in a way that you find valuable? Or is it just a paycheck?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But even that's okay too. I mean, think about some of the first jobs we had. I mean, I worked at a pretzel shop, and I explicitly told my parents I did not see any value in making pretzels.
I mean, for the record, he was 15. This wasn't like, you know,
this is
he wasn't in his 30s working at a pretzel shop. This was when he was in high school.
And this is me trying to get out of having a job. But I didn't see any intrinsic value in it, but it was literally a paycheck. But I even looking back on it, I got more out of it than just the money. I mean, especially as a first job, I had my first boss, my first set of coworkers, my first responsibilities, and there were lessons in those that lead to the next set of options that I have too. Like if my first job was my career and I'd never worked with those things before, then I think it would be a lot harder to make that adjustment.
Well, and maybe that's something for people to think about too, is if you're in a job that, you know, it doesn't set your heart on fire and it's not the most meaningful or like maybe the end game for you, but it does like provide for your family, like, so, or, you know, pays the bills or whatever you need it to do. But what are the other areas in your life that you're investing your time and your talents in that do, you know, make you feel come alive, or that allow you to use the talents that you really want to be using.
Yeah, it's bringing the dividends that really do excite you.
Ooh, the dividends. Getting all the investment terms.
We
We should have had like a list, and then on the screen, once we hit the investment terms,
you guys
just
can make the bingo cards.
Little checklist. Okay. So you would agree that time is more valuable than money. I would agree that time is more valuable than money. So I think that's something we all just need to remind ourselves of, is if time is more valuable than money, like what are we letting dictate who we are and what we do? Not getting too caught up in it. Okay.
What else you got?
What are some of the best ways to invest your time? Is it the same for everybody? Is there like
can't be the same for everybody. What the best ways, like the best things to invest in?
Yeah, what are some of the things that we should be investing in? Is there a should list, or is it just a could list? You could invest in, like we talked about, your local community, your nuclear family.
I mean, we can make a list. So like family, your career, education, and yourself and your spouse. Did we talked about that a little bit, right? Already?
A little bit, just that we've made that as an investment within the last few years of, not that we didn't before, but because our time is limited and our schedules are busy, making sure that we continue to invest in each other long term.
Yeah. Like I'd say your broader extended family, and your and we could go through a list of kind of the different domains of life, and consider which season of life you really have an opportunity to dig into those. But it's got to be different for everybody. I mean, the things that are valuable to us, the way we go about it is, certainly not going to line up, I don't think, with anybody else. They'll have their own priorities and their own goals, and I hope that like this conversation just gets them thinking about what that is, and can maybe lead to, like it is for us, like a rebalancing of making sure that we're aware of what we're putting our time towards.
Right. Specifically, what is that for you? This is what it is for us, right or wrong. It's right for us. It might be wrong for you, but what is it for you? So it's more of that intentional assessment and reassessment of where you want to be and what's important to you.
Yeah.
You have some more questions for me?
I have a question for you, and maybe for our audience too. You don't have to answer this, anybody, but is listening to this conversation and this podcast a good investment of your time? Or have you just wasted your time dollars and flushed them down the toilet? So hopefully the answer is yes.
Well, and it doesn't have to be us. It's any podcast, right? So like even the media you consume, right? Like it's easy to turn on Netflix and it's easy to like watch something, I mean, there's plenty of things that you can watch. There's a lot of things that I enjoy to watch. But even in the allocation of your time to entertainment, right? Like sit down and watch Netflix on the bed in the middle of the day during quarantine, or hey, turn on a podcast, it doesn't have to be by us, but by anybody who is an influencer or someone in their industry or someone with,
someone to teach you or to inspire you.
Yeah, just to ask the right questions to get you to think, not just consume.
Yeah, and not just to live, like we say, like live on autopilot. I feel like there's a certain, I wouldn't say that there's certain things that everybody should be investing in, because everyone's goals and just life circumstances are different. But I wonder, like, to what extent is it okay to invest in things that don't have as tangible of an outcome. And so like like I don't watch a lot of TV. I wish I enjoyed it more.
It's real. I mean, he is amazing in so many ways, and I admire him. But like sometimes you just want to watch TV. You just want to turn on a show and be entertained, and it like makes him uncomfortable to sit down and watch something.
I wish I enjoyed watching television more. But I mean, I think it's interesting because you can pour more and more and more hours into like watching something or being entertained, but there's relatively like low outcome from that. You know what I'm saying? You could spend the same number of hours doing something else and you get a higher yield. So to what extent should we be thinking about things in those terms? Should we be thinking about, okay, if I spend the next 4 hours binging on my favorite series, should I feel okay with that, or should I feel guilty for doing that when I could spend those same 4 hours doing something else? So my tendency, and I know you're making that face because my tendency is to think like that and to try to focus on finding some way to grow or to improve. And for me, that's also my own form of recreation too. I know it's weird, but for the person who is contemplating like, oh, maybe I do spend, too much time doing certain things, whether it's watching something or it could be, eating a bowl of ice cream, which leads to often, it tastes really great, but leads to a negative health outcome that we may be trying to avoid. Like, is it okay to be doing those things, and to what extent is it okay?
Well, I mean, right. It wouldn't be everything in moderation, right? Like that's usually a good.
I mean, that's the other thing. Like, life is too short not to eat the slice of pizza.
Well, right. It doesn't mean right, but you're not going to eat pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. But on Fridays you have pizza. So yeah, I mean, you can invest in a lot of things, but you can also enjoy life too. Like we said, like taking life off the gas pedal. Park in the car, enjoying the sunset, enjoying the pizza, enjoying the bowl of ice cream or an episode. But yeah, like over the course of a day or over the course of a week or a month or a year, what are you doing with your time?
Mm-hmm. I think of it like if your time were dollars, like sometimes you can scrape every last cent you have and put it towards some investment. But most people don't do that, and with good reason. Like they take a few of those dollars and they go and buy
something for the now.
Pack of baseball cards or, something, right, something to enjoy, something to consume guilt-free.
What does that say about it? I mean, like, there's so many, like, implications. There's, like, so many ways you could think about that, right? Like, you want this house or this car or you want to make this investment. You need X amount of dollars. You get a paycheck, right? And so you've got to pay your bills. You've got this much left. Do you put it all into savings, into an investment to somewhere else? Or do you only put half there and then you buy, like, a new pair of shoes and then go out to dinner with your girl? Like... Right? It's kind of what we talked about earlier in the podcast episode. It's like, You want to enjoy life now. You can't always be focused on something in the future. Like, there is this bit of enjoyment. So, again, it's moderation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have these conversations, so we can think about that. I did hear someone, and this is more financial advice, but they did say, be conservative and save your money in as many areas as you can, in everything. Except one, like in one area of something you truly enjoy. And for this guy, his example was, I think it was sweaters was his example. He's like, when I see a nice sweater, I just buy it. I don't think about the price. I just go for it. And that's a mindset that I've somewhat adopted as well in more metaphorically, like thinking like there's some things that we try to be more strategic and conservative about, but in certain areas where we just love it, it's like, let's not overthink it. Let's just do it, because we don't want to get to old age and look back and think, you know what, like I was an idiot. I should have taken advantage of those moments better.
Can you think of something like that, like during our like marriage or during your life where you're like, yeah, you know what, I put a whole lot of time and effort into this or a whole lot of money into this and it was worth it? Or maybe it wasn't worth it.
Well, yeah, I can think of both. I think of, like you said, in our podcast episode, we moved a year ago into a bigger house. And I mean, we really love it here. It's not cheap though. So I think that's one of the areas where we're just like, this is one thing that's important to the way we want to facilitate life and family. And so we are going to go a little bit bigger in this area. even though that means that we're going to go smaller in other areas as well, to like travel, for example. So I think that's one decision that we made that I don't regret.
Okay, I think that's good.
Mm-hmm. I think when we were younger, we've talked about this too. When we were younger, without kids, we look back and just like random things that we could have done that we didn't.
Oh my gosh, I look at what we were able to save. So we were both working full time. So we had like dual income, dual income, no kids, right? Does anyone still use that phrase? Yeah. Okay, dual income, no kids. And we saved, we donated, we saved a lot. And like he, his mentality is we didn't save enough. Do you know how much more we could have saved? But we also like didn't go out to dinner like hardly ever. We ate at home.
Anywhere, yeah.
We were conservative and we were just starting our careers. We were both teachers, so we spent a lot of time at the schools that we worked at. And we think, gosh, we could have been living the high life then.
But I even think about the time too. Like, so I mean, one thing that we kind of miss now is some of the freedom that comes with not having to worry about childcare. So like we've said, like, oh man, we could have like gone out to see a movie on a Tuesday night. Like, let's Tuesday night, let's go see it. Now,
you got to call the babysitter. You got to pay the babysitter. Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
So that's one of the things, like looking back, that I think that maybe you can only understand it by looking back. But I'd replay a little bit more and invest. I think we invested our time well in a lot of ways when we were younger. But I think there are some edits I'd like to make if I could relive it.
Yeah, well, with age comes wisdom.
Yeah. And
you don't know what you don't know until you know it, so.
Yeah, well, that's why one of our upcoming podcasts will be like the questions we ask ourselves, and I know we'll bring this up again when we have that conversation.
The questions we ask ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Do you have any more questions? I
have a bunch. Like I was telling you, we've talked about a few of these. One of them is, I was reading about this, like in America, we say in general, we're very focused on like producing or consuming. And, so much of what we do and so much of what we think about like operates within that spectrum. So are there things that we can do like outside of that spectrum that are neither producing nor consuming that are still valuable to be putting our time into?
I think anything that we feel passionate about like has value. And so I think sometimes I get caught up in this. I've seen a lot of people get caught up in it. It's like if I make something or do something and no one recognizes it, it must not be of any value. Because we just live in a time where we're constantly like, oh, this is my accomplishment, or this is what I've made, or this is what I've done, and look at how many people have liked it, or look at how many people are now following me because of it.
Yeah, I think social media can be a trap, and I think a big time waster too, as I've discovered with like Facebook or with TikTok, and especially in quarantine, I've gravitated towards those more. But yeah, there's I think some benefits of engaging with those, but also some pitfalls too.
Whereas, if I'm into baking, right, and every time I bake something, I feel the need to share it with people, but if people don't like taste it or value it, does that lessen my love for baking? And the answer should be no. It's something that like I'm investing like my time and my effort in because it brings me joy or pleasure, regardless of what anybody else thinks or does or follows. Mm-hmm. But I think we just live in a time where we kind of need that like constant affirmation of our talents and our gifts, and like I don't know that it needs to be validated in that way, but we think it does. And if it's not validated, then we think that it's not important, or that maybe we have no talent in that area. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what the question was now, but that's just where I went with it. So
I think of moments where we're still, like I think of dinner time as that, like by itself, and an investment that we make, and a very special one. And I know you just wrote about this for the blog too, but like to me, we're not really creating anything, and we're consuming food, I suppose, but it's really just a time of stillness for us as a family, where everything else is set aside. We gather together, and I guess you'd say we're investing in family, investing in our kids, but I think there's other moments like that where we have family over and share a cup of coffee, or are just able to have a conversation, and it doesn't really lead to what you could say is a tangible outcome the same way if you were like taking an education course or developing some skill or something like that. But there is a positive net gain to it that sometimes can be overlooked because we are focused on creating something or producing something or getting something out of whatever we're consuming.
I think that's one of those, it goes back to the episode, like the cultivation part of it, where it's those little things, those just being genuine and in the moment and being present is, like planting a seed. Mm-hmm. Where it's, you put a whole bunch of seeds down and some take and some don't. Mm-hmm. But you don't always know which one is which. And so like the consistency of doing those things over time is what builds something. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, those moments that aren't big things, but are just small, fleeting, consistent moments make a difference and are part of the investment process. So you're not trying to make something and you're not trying to take anything out of it. You're just letting it be and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
Kind of like that trust.
Yeah, I think that's a good word that we haven't brought up before.
What? How about, all right, so let's find a question in that, right? Like, how can you trust your investments? Mm-hmm. Right? Like do you put trust in your investments, or are they, I don't know, all
right, so like when you're investing dollars, you're trusting a company or you're trusting an economy in a sense. And
to grow
you've done your research. Yeah. So, and I think there's some things that are in your control, just as the person, the things you're investing in, but also some things that aren't. Like we're investing in our kids, but I've got to trust them as they develop and get older. I've also got to trust you too, because this is a joint investment. And so when I can't like micromanage the whole parenting process, and neither can you. We have to like trust each other as teammates.
That's true. That's very true. And I think that's no matter what we do or what we allocate our time and attention to, there's this level of trust that you're going to do what you can to pour into it. Mm-hmm. But we also, there's some risk associated with that. So we don't really know what that outcome is going to be. Mm-hmm. We just have to be consistent in how we steward our time and our talents, which is a little, it's a little risky.
Out a little bit there.
Yeah.
I know there's plenty of other questions, and I'm sure we'll be thinking of more for each other as we continue to engage. But we're going to wrap up our bonus feature clip here. We want you guys to share any of the thoughts or any of the comments that we had during this conversation. Share your favorite ones in the comments below, and any questions that you have or any other thoughts about how you are considering the investments that you make. We want you to share those in the comments too, and we'll be happy to engage with you there. So thanks for tuning into the bonus, and we hope to see you more.
Bye guys. Thanks.